Hey folks, thanks for visiting livemorenow.net. In my last video, I announced a work from home series since many of us have been thrust into that environment recently. And I defined what I see as three factors that are the key to success. One being creating a separate workspace. Number two, staying engaged with the team. And number three, how to stay productive and focused while working from home. Last time we talked about creating that separate workspace. Today we'll talk about how to stay engaged with the team. So folks, while we're all working from home and navigating this whole new scenario that many of us have never experienced in our lives, this can be a very isolating time. Many of us can feel lonely. There's no longer the chit chat that might happen within the office. You're not chatting with anybody at the coffee station any longer. So all the more reason that we need to stay engaged. And today I've got 4 tips that'll hopefully help you do that. Starting with number 1, set up standing conference calls. Now it's very easy to get wrapped up in your day-to-day duties, and all of a sudden a week goes by and you might be left feeling like, gosh, I haven't hardly touched bases with anybody. So what we did at my office was we created several different standing conference calls. I have one every other week with my boss, and we don't always need it, but it's just kind of there on the calendar so we know if we need to, if time has slipped by us, we have that opportunity to touch bases. We also have a manager's meeting, so the management team can just get together and talk about some of the good, the bad, the ugly that's going on with the team. And we also have a conference call that's actually twice weekly where we have just about everybody on the team on that phone call. And it's just an information sharing session. So we just kind of go around the virtual room and see what's going on with those folks. And it's nice because somebody might have a difficulty or run into a stumbling block that somebody else might have already encountered, at which point they can kind of chime in and say, here's how you should handle that, contact this person, or blah, 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 whatever that may be. Now, while we don't require the use of web cameras, we do strongly encourage it. Which leads me to point number 2, use your web camera. Now I can just imagine that there's some folks on the other end of this camera groaning because a lot of us don't like to be on camera. Believe me, there's some days where I haven't put on any makeup or I'm wearing a sweatshirt and I just rather not be on camera. But the most popular reason I have found is that if you're not on camera, it's an opportunity to disengage, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid. If you're not on camera, it's easy to tune the person out who's talking or get distracted doing other work. And I wouldn't want that done to me. And I'm sure the person on the other end doesn't want that done to them either. It's just easy to do. I'm not implying that anybody's doing this maliciously. It's just kind of a natural thing that can happen where you just kind of go off into your own direction. Also, importantly, when you're using a web camera, it can help minimize or eliminate some misunderstandings or miscommunications. Just remember, folks, that a lot of the message we send when we talk is shown through our body language and facial expressions. So just generally speaking, if we can see each other's faces, the whole vibe of the meeting is improved. Number 3, use screen share. Just about every web conferencing program that I've ever worked with, I can't imagine one that doesn't, has a screen sharing option. So when we're in our office space all working together, oftentimes I might say, hey, so-and-so, can you stop by my desk and take a look at my monitor and look at what I'm working on? Or in fact, since we've been working from home, I can't tell you how many times I've actually been on the phone. I'm pointing at my monitor as if somebody can see me, only to realize that they can't. So screen share is a wonderful option to replace that so that the person on the other end can see what I'm working on. If I'm deep in an Excel spreadsheet and I'm trying to describe over the phone the problem, 9 times out of 10 the person will say, well, why don't you just email it to me? And I'll email it to them and they'll call back and say, okay, I've got the spreadsheet open. Now what was the problem? Where if we had just been using screen share, that whole conversation could have been eliminated and the issue might have been resolved in just a couple of minutes. So it's easy and efficient, and again, just lends itself to that engagement that we're trying to go for. Number 4, Let's try to limit our emails and pick up the phone a little more often. This is not unique to working from home, but how many times have we gotten wrapped up in these email threads that just never end? Perhaps because there's a misunderstanding or the topic might just be too complex for an email. And nowadays, especially if you're not in the same workspace, it's just so much easier to forget that, why don't I just call this person? Now, oftentimes I'll receive a text from one of my coworkers saying, hey, can I give you a call? Which is fine. They're just confirming basically, are you available? But again, just picking up that phone, increasing that engagement, and usually you can resolve an issue in a couple of minutes versus perhaps a matter of hours. So there you have it, folks. Those are my top 4 tips that I would recommend for staying engaged. I'm sure there's many more. In fact, I would love to hear from you. I'm sure some of these tips might just serve as a reminder, depending on your experience with working from home. Again, I know it can be a really lonely time for some of us, some more than others. Sometimes it might just be a matter of picking up the phone. If you used to talk to Susie every morning while you're grabbing a cup of coffee, pick up the phone and give that person a call periodically. They very well might be feeling just as lonely on the other end. As I mentioned, I'm really interested in any suggestions, tips that any of you might have already experienced. Our next video will be discussing how to stay productive and focused while working from home. So please be sure to click subscribe to receive those updates. Thank you so much for visiting livemorenow.net.